Ann Arbor, South Bend. When you think of the two schools that occupy those cities, you think of history, tradition. Two programs that pride themselves on honesty and integrity, doing things the right way. Separated by 161 miles, it's a rivalry that goes back to college football's humble beginnings. They didn't play every year, but, given their similarities, they should have. In these two cities reside two of the grandest cathedrals in all of sport. In those stadiums, two teams of college football royalty hold the crown as two of the winningest programs of all time. Despite that rich history, these teams last faced each other in 2014 and have been on hiatus ever since. Canceled with the passing of an envelope. But today, as Michigan travels to Notre Dame, that rivalry is renewed.
Good morning from beautiful South Bend, Indiana, where 14th ranked Michigan will be taking on number 12 Notre Dame for the season opener here in 2018. I am Isaiah Hull from Wolverines Wire, coming to you live, as you know, from South Bend. We have the Golden Dome right behind us here. So just wanted to talk about a couple things as far as looking forward to the game, my keys to the game. Obviously, it's a huge matchup tonight. I've been hearing a lot of talk about the hot seat for both coaches. I don't know that it's a very serious game, but I don't know if it's that serious necessarily. But obviously, we're looking forward to a really good matchup. Now, keys to a Michigan victory. There's three things that I take a look at as far as what I really want to see Michigan do in order to win this game. Number one, you want to see that defensive pressure up front. Obviously, Michigan's strength is this defensive line. We heard from Greg Madison earlier this week about how that there's essentially a full 8-man rotation once again, very similar to 2016. You're really looking at your elder statesmen on the line, Chase Winovich and Rashawn Gary. They should have a really good opportunity today, considering that Notre Dame has lost both of their they lost their two All-Americans, both on the left side. So they're doing a little bit of juggling. You're going to see a couple different players on the outside for Notre Dame, both at left tackle and right tackle. So that is definitely an opportunity for those guys to really get pressure up front. Really want to see what Michael Dwumfor is able to do there in the middle. We already know that it's going to be a mixture of Aubrey Solomon and Brian Monet there at nose, but really want to see what Michael Dwumfor does. It's his first really extended game action. He played quite a bit last year, did really good in little small stretches that he was able to go into the game. So it will be a huge game for him to be able to come in. We keep on hearing about how he's got that very quick first step, very similar to Mo Hurst. So that's going to be really a huge thing for them to be able to go in, really make that impact, really try to keep Brandon Wimbush on his toes, which is what brings us to our second point, which is contain Brandon Wimbush. He only passed for about 49% of his passes last year, so it's a big opportunity for guys like Lavert Hill and David Long. They had the best pass defense a year ago, and it's actually pretty amazing when you look at the stats. David Long, he was actually had the best passer rating when opposed as far as from a cornerback's point of view last year, according to Pro Football Focus. Same website, the scouting site Pro Football Focus has Lavert Hill as being the top returning cornerback in all of Power 5 and all of football. So those guys, they're going to really be able to limit what Brandon Wimbush does through the air. So you're going to want to make sure that you keep him contained, because he does like to use his feet. It was their Notre Dame's second leading rusher a year ago, so it's a big deal for them to be able to contain him. Third thing that I really want to see from Michigan today is what do we see out of Shea Patterson? Obviously, that's a huge question mark. He had a really good stretch there at Ole Miss. Now, not to cherry pick a little bit, but we always hear about how he didn't have very good games against really good competition. Well, it was really only 2 games. It was against Alabama and LSU, and not many quarterbacks had very good games against those two teams. But overall, he played 10 games, and he passed for about an average of 313 yards a game. You remove those two, it's up to about 350. So that's a big stretch there. And now, obviously, he played really well in some of those other games that he had. He had a really good game against Texas A&M last year. 2 years ago, rather, in his first year as a player at Ole Miss. Last year, he beat Auburn. So he's got some good games under his belt, and he's seen some of those top-tier defenses. So how does that translate to a game like this one? Notre Dame had the 46th ranked defense a year ago, so they're not going to be very much of a slouch. They return, it ends up being about 8 starters. Sean Crawford, unfortunately, tore his ACL earlier in the week. He was something of a nickelback, but he was expected to maybe slide out over to the outside. Unfortunately, he's gone for Notre Dame. So with Shea, what I want to see is how much does he take advantage of the opportunities that Notre Dame gives him? Notre Dame was near the bottom third last year in all of college football as far as allowing plays between 10 and 20 yards. So if he can go out there and take what the defense gives him, they have a really good shot to be able to move the ball offensively. Now, I like Michigan, both sides of the ball as far as offense and defense. I think you've got a stronger defense than the Fighting Irish. I think that there's a possibility that there's a stronger offense, but we won't really know until they take the field and we see what Shea Patterson and what this potentially revamped offense looks like. Keep on hearing some different things in that regard. Special teams is where I have a little bit more of a question. So we'll see where that goes. But if you get those other 2 units to really work, then that doesn't matter quite as much because you have to have 2 out of 3 units to win a game like this. Anyway, that's my take. Check out WolverinesWire.com. We'll be having stuff coming out all day for me, Brandon Knapp, and Evan Petzold. So stay tuned. We got obviously a huge game. We'll see how this goes for Michigan.